Yo, salute. All right, how y'all feeling? Okay, y'all know we gotta go. We gotta go here today. We gotta go here today. Okay, because I'm talking about a topic that is often that often comes up in marriages that leaves people like, huh? Well, I ain't doing that. I'm not doing that. Okay, so and I think it's because we don't have the proper understanding. We're talking about submission. My wife is a very assertive woman. So in the first 5 years of our marriage, we're married 16 years now. In the first 5 years, it's like, yo, so that means I gotta listen to what you say and you get to reign over me and you just get full control and you don't have to submit to me or what? So there was a lot of back and forth about her understanding and my understanding because we didn't see healthy marriages around us, so we didn't know what submission looked like. All right, so we had a very negative thought process. We had a negative connotation around what submission was. So therefore, it was very hard for us to do it. But I'm going to go to what the word says. And now, as I mature continuously, as we grow in our marriage, as we grow in ourselves, we start to learn like, oh, okay, this is submission. So I want to break down to you all. We're going to go to Ephesians real quick. And this is Paul, right? Go to Ephesians 5. And first of all, I just want to talk about in general, Paul discusses, right, as he's giving out, he's talking to how we should just begin to live our lives and love on each other, just in any relationship. He says, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. So in here, I'm like, okay, he's talking about all relationships as far as grandmother, grandson, grandmother, friends, best friends, husband, wife, whatever relationship you have, we should submit to one another. So in other words, there is a level of submission not being about hierarchy, but submission being about love and respect and having mutual respect for one another and being willing to serve each other out of reverence for God. Because God, literally, Christ gave the ultimate submission and sacrifice. So it is in this way we are showing that, wait a minute, mutual submission, how can there be a hierarchy on mutual submission? Right? So we were just talking about submission. I'm not talking about just the marriage just yet, but we're talking about in submission, period. Based off of this, it's not saying that submission is only based off of one person or how strong you are or man or female or anything. It's based off of you having a relationship of any kind with another person. You submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Boom. Just plain and clear. Okay, cool. So we got that. The second thing I want to break down, and I also have some notes that I wanted to go into, right? Wives, submit to your husbands as to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. So first of all, I love how Paul, do you understand the beauty of this? Of how Paul now compares the relationship between the spouse and the husband as to the church and Christ. It's like, that's such a beautiful relationship, right? But what was it that the church did for Christ? Okay, there was a mutual respect. There was a respect for Christ. There was a respect for Christ. There was a respect for the role. And then the people of the church, they loved Christ. They longed for Christ. They was willing to honor and respect Christ's role in their life. They sought out forgiveness from Christ when they had wronged Christ, or they had strayed away from Christ, or they had separation from Christ or disconnect from Christ in any way. There was the seeking of forgiveness. All right. They honored Christ's voice. They listened to Christ when Christ was talking to them. They valued Christ's opinion and position in their life, and they supported Christ's leadership. That's what submission looks like from the wife, the same as Christ to the church. Now, those things I just gave the example of are not in the Bible. I'm saying, what did Christ do for the church? I look at like what do I do as being a part of the church? Like I respect and value the role of Christ. I value Christ's opinion and thoughts. I value Christ's position in my life. When I'm disconnected from Christ, I seek to gain forgiveness. All of these things are submission. This is how, in a marriage, a wife should be with their spouse. You should honor and respect his leadership, respect his voice. When you have wronged him or been disconnected from him, you should seek out forgiveness for that. You should value his position in your life, being the head of the household, and not try to tear that down or try to take it away from him. As no one, that like the church was not trying to take Christ's position, but more so validate the position and continue to further honor the position, right? And allow Christ to move and lead, right? That's how the wife should look when in submission. Not saying be controlled, because not even Christ took away control. It's like we always still have free will. So why would all of a sudden in marriage there be oh no, I'm controlling you now? No, that's not it. You don't have control. And matter of fact, as a man, you have to make sure you're connected to God so that you can earn this submission, so you can actually be submitted to. All right. So I just want to point out that's what submission will look like between wife and the husband, the same as Christ to the church. All right. And again, supported the leadership, valued the position, sought to listen. All right. It was not just about hearing themselves, but also willing to hear from Christ, being willing to run to forgiveness when wrong, being willing to validate the position that they held and not trying to take the position from them. All right. This is all things of an act of submission. Now let's talk about the men. Because remember, we are to submit to one another, right? Husbands, this is 5:25. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her to make her holy. Okay, let me just stop there. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her. When we look at what did Christ do for the church, Christ laid down his life for the church, the ultimate submission. As a husband, your role and what submission looks like for you, it looks like sacrifice. And there are times when, like, for example, there are times when I've been working and I know my wife may be overwhelmed from her day. And I'll like, yo, babe, I will, you know what? I'll take this on. Like doing drop-offs for kids. It's a lot. I'm like, I'll take that on. Sacrifice. I'm tired, but submission looks like sacrifice. So you know that I have your back. God, Christ did the ultimate sacrifice, laying down his life. So submission on a man's part look like sacrifice. It looks like protection. What does that mean? You protect your spouse spiritually. You protect her emotionally. You protect her physically, protecting her financially, right? And that doesn't mean you have to be the only one making money, but you should be making sure there is proper stewardship happening in your home. That's protection, protecting her peace, right? You are to protect. This is your way of submitting. So you don't bring stress. You don't go out and act a fool and disrupt her peace. That's submit. When I go out of town and my wife knows that I'm not going to sleep around and all of those things, and she understands that in me because she knows who I follow. That is me protecting her peace. I am submitting to this covenant. I'm submitting to this commitment that I have with you. When I look again, I go and I even ask for forgiveness. When I ask for forgiveness, that is me submitting to hear her voice. Again, when you look at Christ, Christ hears us. Christ heard the church. He listens to the church. He listened to the church cries and their prayers and all of those things. So when I have ideas and things like that, I don't just move. I take them to my wife and I say, babe, what are your thoughts on this? Find the gaps, because I will be a fool to have two brains in this home and then only use one. That is a fool. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to submit to her. Baby, what do you see? Because I'm going to hear her. I'm going to hear her concerns. I'm going to hear the gaps. I'm going to hear even when she just wants to. The other day, literally, she came in here. This is a real true story. The other day, my wife comes in here. She's like, babe, I'm overwhelmed. I don't want you to fix it, but I want to be heard. Cool. Now I'm not trying to fix it. I'm not trying to give all these ideas and advice and all of those things. I just listen. Submission. And guess what else I did? After hearing that, I go in our room. She's in here in our office working and doing some other things. And I see a pile of clothes on the bed without being prompted, without wanting anything in return. I said, boom, let me fold these clothes then. I'm not trying to solve anything, but if I can create a level of peace and just to demonstrate to you, I got your back. She saw that and she was like, man, babe, you, okay. She even said like, yo, you have my back. I appreciate it so much. Because those clothes, they will sit there for the next 2 or 3 days and they will haunt her here. It's my job to protect that peace. Of course, yes, God is the foundation of this. But I'm saying, I'm here, I'm your husband, I'm going to protect that peace. That's submission. So yours look like serving. Christ still serves the church. So I'm still going to serve my wife. I'm still going to serve. I'm still going to sacrifice. I'm still going to protect and uplift. This is how it looks for men to submit. Wife honors, husband sacrifice, but we both submit to Christ. That's what it looks like. So when we ask like, yo, should we be submitting to one another? Absolutely. But I must also, as a man, I must give leadership for my wife to submit to. That comes only from God. When she knows that I'm being led by Christ, when she knows that I'm being led by Christ, by God, then my leadership becomes very easy to submit to. Then she can value and make sure I stay in that position and that role. My wife today, she wants me in the role of leadership because she honors how I lead our family. She honors that, right? That is her submitting. And my submission is making sure that I stay close to God and I am stewarding my family well, and I am being a visionary, and I constantly am willing to go along on this journey, but hear her voice on the journey. That is submission. Okay? I tried to make this video as short as possible, but there's so much I can say about it. I may do a live on it as well. But tell me your thoughts when you read, and I'm coming from Ephesians 5. When you read, what do you get? But yes, so we understand. I will also say this. The most beautiful thing about this is that in Paul's eyes, as he's comparing the two, he's saying this marriage represents the same relationship that Christ had to the church. And it's like, man, that's why marriages are constantly under attack, because it is that powerful of a relationship. It is that powerful that it represents Christ to the church. The church honors Christ. Christ sacrifices and protects the church. That's what submission looks like. Let's get it. Ugh.